Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. Today, we're going to go over some of the sweet cards from Thunder Junction that you should watch out for when you're playing Limited. If you're out there playing your sealed pre-release or even in draft, these are cards you should definitely be on the lookout for, because if you ain't getting them, other people will. So, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. We busted 800. Thank you very much. On our way to 1,000 so we can have some giveaways. Links in the description. Help support the channel. It's all free. If you want to buy some cards, it's the best way to support the channel. You get something, I get something. We look for ShamWow together. You know, it's all kumbaya. So anyway, let's take a look at some of the best cards in Limited, Draft, and Sealed you should be looking for when playing with the Thunder Junction. First off, we have the land of Bucolic Ranch, I think it's pronounced. So it's a desert, comes into play untapped, doesn't hurt your mana base. It does tap for a colorless, which can suck, but it also says add one mana of any color, spin it only to cast mount spells. You got quite a few mounts that could this could come in handy as well. Not to mention for 3 and tapping it, you can look at the top card of your library. If it's a mount, you can put it in your hand. If not, you may put it on the bottom. If you have mounts in your deck, this is amazing. If you don't have mounts in your deck, if you have mana left over, this is literally deck manipulation. Yeah, you'll never draw a card off of it, but hey, if you need to draw a card and the last thing you want to see is a land, you can activate this. If there's a land on top of your deck, you can put it on the bottom. You can actually prevent yourself from drawing something even without mounts. So this, in my opinion, is a must-have in the Limited format. Next, we have the good old Arid Archway. It comes to play tapped, but when it enters the battlefield, you can return a land you control to its owner's hand. If another desert is returned this way, you surveil 1. The biggest thing about this is it taps for 2 colorless. This is a great way to ramp in any deck that's got some big nasties and may not have access to green. But, you know, it does return a land to your hand. If you've got deserts to get the bonus, that's great. But what this really does is it prevents you from missing a land drop because you don't lose the land. Now, colored mana may be an issue, but I'll be honest with you, if I had one of these in my deck, probably would play it. Now, moving on to artifacts, we have the Mobile Homestead, 2 colorless for a 3/3. It has haste as long as you control a mount, which is great because that means you could use it first as soon as it comes out. Not to mention, when you attack, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. That's huge. That is ramp. Also, it only crews for 2, not a hefty price. So this would be a real good way in a mount deck or whatever, or even in a regular deck, to mill lands off the top of your deck so you don't draw them while still not sacrificing land drops. This card, I think, is going to be a powerful uncommon in the Limited format. Next, we have, of course, the luxurious Locomotive, 5 colorless, 6/5. Whenever it attacks, you get a treasure for every creature that crewed it. It only crews for 1. You only activate it once each turn. You only get 1 treasure off of it, but I'll be honest with you. A 6/5 for 5 that gives you a treasure whenever you crew it and swing in. It just seems good. Plus, if this is on the battlefield, any creature you play is going to be able to crew it, making this thing a serious threat. All right, next we have Bandits Hall. This uncommon, a 3 colorless artifact. Whenever you commit a crime, you put a loot counter on it. It only triggers once each turn, but it is a mana rock that can fix your mana woes. And if you do happen to get up to 2 or more loot counters, you can, for 2 mana, draw a card, which is always a good bonus in any mana rock. Normally, the mana rocks we're used to don't have these kind of bonuses. So if you need mana or a little mana tight, or you want to do mana fixing, this is a great way to do it with a ability to give you card draw, especially if you feel like committing some crimes. All right, now from here, we're going to start with the commons in most of the colors that I think are the most impactful. We have Catattantula. This is 2 green and 4 for a 6/5 spell that costs 1 less to cast if you control a desert. Now, it's only 1 less, but a 5 mana 6/5 with reach that whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you draw a card. This is a powerhouse at 6 and devastating on turn 5. So, if you're playing green, this is the common you're looking for. Next we have in green, we have Hard Bristle Bandit, green 1 for a 1/1. Add 1 mana of any color. It's a great mana dork, good for mana fixing, and if you commit a crime, you get to untap it. It only triggers once each turn, but the ability to untap it can be good. Maybe you need to target your opponent with something. You tap him, then you can untap him, chump block with him. Either way, he's a mana dork with an ability, which is just bonus. Then we have the Giant Beaver. What is Renona at? Anyway, green and 3 for a 4/4 of Vigilance. Now, it is a mount, so you can saddle it for 3, which is a bit much. While attacking saddle, you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that saddled it. As cool as the +1/+1 counter is, even in the worst of decks, at the worst of times, this is still a 4/4 for 4 with Vigilance, which is just fine in the format. You got 3 or 4 of these things at common, or 5 or 6, they're going to be a problem. And don't forget, mounts can saddle each other. Well, that didn't sound right. But anyway, they can, and therefore, they can get the +1/+1 counters. So you could have a whole saddle chain. This is going south quick. Anyway, this card I think is going to be really good, even just without the saddle ability. I mean, 4/4 Vigilance for 4. What more do you want? Next, you have Dance of the Tumbleweeds, green and 1 spree sorcery. For 3, search your library for a basic land or a desert card, put it in a battlefield, and shuffle. It doesn't go on the battlefield tapped, keyword there. So it's great mana fixing early. And late game, if you have 5 mana, you could just make a 5/5 green elemental token, which is equal to the number of lands you control, which may be a 7/7 or an 8/8, depending on how late the game is. But what's great about it, it's early mana fixing and a big nappy creature later, which is all the difference, because I don't know how many times I've hated drawing my mana fixing card late in the game when I really needed something to fight with. Next, we have the Voracious Varint. Is that a carrot? Anyway, green and 1 for this 2/2 Vigilance. Already great as a vanilla creature, 2/2 for 2 with Vigi. For 1, you can sacrifice him, destroy enchantment or artifact. Worst case scenario, he's a 2/2 beater. Best case scenario, you destroy something that's giving you some serious heartache. Next, we have in white the trained Artics. White and 1 for a 3/1. Now, whenever you attack while it's saddled, it gains first strike to end a turn, and you scry 1. It only saddles for 2. That is not hard to do. Not to mention, a 3/1 first striker in a limited format is house. This is a beat stick. You get 2 or 3 of these on the field. You're scrying to your best cards. You're 3/1 first striking with combat tricks. Like, this is going to be house in a deck playing white. Next in white, we have the Holy Cow Ox Angel. So white and 2 for a 2/2 flying flash creature. Enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 1. Great combat trick to kill something that flies or whatever else is ailing you. Plus, the ability to make a 2/2 flyer for 3 and scry 1, gain 2 life. Like, a lot of upside here. I'd at least take 1 or 2 of these in any of my decks. Next, we have Arid's Lullabi. A white and 1. Destroy target tapped creature, gain 2 life. This is going to be an amazing removal spell for the simple fact that everybody's going to be swinging for the fences because it's going to be a creature fight. The only thing you got to make sure is you don't die before you can kill something that's tapped. Or be careful of all the vigilance creatures, i.e. anything that has vigilance attached to it could also be good because it actually subverts this whole thing. But with that said too, don't forget, creatures have to get tapped to be saddled, and that also gives you a chance to kill them. So I think this is going to be a high powerful, top of the line, top shelf version of removal in this format. Next, we have the Bridled Bighorn, white and 3 for a 3/4 of Vigilance. We just talked about that. Whenever it attacks while saddled, create a 1/1 sheep token. Cool thing about this is once you saddle it once or twice, it saddles itself because it's just going to make 1/1s constantly as long as it doesn't get killed. Great card, good filler for spot 4, especially in white. Next, we have Rodeo Pyromancer, a red and 3 for a 3/4. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, you get 2 red. I mentioned this wasn't all that great during the leaks, but as I went back through and looked at commons, as a 4-drop for red or a red splash color, this is just fine because it basically means you get a 2 mana rebate on anything you do after turn 4, which means you play a 3 mana creature, it just costs 1, as long as you have something else to play. Plus, it's a 3/4, it blocks well, attacks decent. Seems like it's going to be a good card, especially for red because it ain't got a whole lot going on. Well, not a lot except for damage. So we have Explosive Derailment, 1 red spree card. So for 3 mana, you can choose to deal 4 damage to a creature. That seems like good removal at instant speed. Plus, for 2, you can also destroy an artifact. Meaning for 5, you get both. This is premium removal. Nothing's going to be better than this. Because there's only one Planeswalker in the whole deck. So, or the whole set. So, you're playing red. This is what you want in your life. Next, we have the Thunder Salvo. More great red removal. Red and 1 deals X damage to target creature, where X is 2 plus the number of other spells you've cast this turn. Worst case scenario is a 2 mana shock, which may be enough to kill anything. But normally, as long as you have another spell, this is probably going to be a 3 mana, a 2-cost 3 mana instant, which is basically Lightning Strike for a creature, which is just fine. But if you have lots of spells in your hand or some cheap ones, this can get up there, making the ceiling on it pretty high. Next, we move on to black commons. We have the Vault Plunderer, probably one of the best commons in black. A black and 2 for a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, target player draws a card and loses a life. This is great for you because it refills your hand, gives you a 3/1, which is a great blocker or attacker. Or, if you happen to get your opponent to 1 life, you can just force them to draw a card and die. Yeah, that's a thing. So, next for black commons, we have Consuming Ashes. 2 black and 2, it's a 4 mana instant, exile a creature. What more do you want in life? The bonus, if it's 3 mana or less, you get to Surveil 2. But all in all, this is probably the best removal for black. Next, we have Phantom Interference as we get into blue. It's a 1 blue instant spree card, 4 mana. You can get a 2/2 white spirit creature with flying, which is a bit pricey, but at instant speed can be good. But also, for a blue and 1, you can counter a spell unless your controller pays 2 more. So you have a counter spell that later in the game, when it's useless, can become a creature again, making this very powerful and very good in a limited format. Next, we have Seize the Secrets. Blue and 2. It costs 1 less to cast if you commit a crime. This is a sorcery. This is your basic 3 mana draw 2, which has been great in limited since the dawn of time for blue. And on the off chance you've committed a crime this turn, you can do it for 2, which is insanely good. So, on its face, typical great card, with the possibility to be better. Next, here in blue, we start with the uncommons. We have Metamorphic Blast, 1 blue instant spree card. Blue and 1, until the end of turn, target creature is a white rabbit, base power 0/1. Great combat trick to kill those pesky big varmints your opponent may be throwing at you. But also, for a blue and 3, you can draw 2 cards. At instant speed, this is the going rate for limited. So, I know we just looked at one that was 3, but it was a sorcery. And the ability to get both of these for 5, kill your opponent's creature, and draw 2 cards, seems sweet. Next on green, we have Rise the Varmints. Green and 3 sorcery. Create X 2/1 green varmint creature tokens where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Plots for a green and 2. Meaning you can plot it so you don't get it discarded from your hand. And late game, after you let 3, 4, maybe if you're lucky, 5 creatures die, 5 2/1s is nothing to laugh at. Matter of fact, it's rather freaking dangerous. And it could just get better from there. I mean, even at best, if it's just 3, 3 2/1s for 4, that means a 6/3 creature. I'd pay that all day long. Plus, with other combat tricks you may have going on, this as an uncommon is just going to be housed in any deck playing green, heavy in creatures. Next, we have in white, Bovine Intervention. A white and 1, destroy target artifact or creatures. Controller creates a 2/2 white ox creature token. Again, great instant. Best thing about it, yeah, they get a 2/2, and that can suck. But there are some really big, nasty creatures in this deck. or in limited, excuse me, that this will just deal with artifacts as well, without a condition, other than giving your opponent a 2/2. And if you die to that 2/2, trust me, whatever you did kill would have killed you a lot faster. Next in white, we have Requisition Raid. So this spree card is 1 white sorcery. Destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. This is insane, because for 4 mana, you literally could destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, and pump the team. This is the best of what white has to offer for what it does, all in one card. This is insanely good. In limited, it's going to be an all-star. I mean, worst case scenario, if you don't use one of these, it's just cheaper. In worst case scenario, you're going to pump your whole team for +1/+1. Best case scenario, you're going to do that, plus maybe nail an artifact or an enchantment out of it, or both if you're lucky. And limited, this is going to be a card you want at least one of, if you're playing white. Next in black, we have the Treasure Dredger. Black and 1 for a 2/2. For 1 colorless, you could tap it, pay a life, and create a treasure token. Decent card on its face, 2 mana 2/2. The ability to ramp in black is not something we normally see, and this can be very helpful, especially multicolored decks. Yes, you have to pay a life, and you have to invest a mana into it, but in a limited game, that may be worth it, and if you need mana fixing bad enough, I mean, here it is. It's not terrible. Next, we have the Blood Hustler. So black and 1 for this 1/1 vampire rogue. Whenever you commit a crime, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. It only triggers once each turn, but for a black and 1, the target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That is a crime that you're committing there, guaranteeing you the ability to pump this every turn if you run out of things to cast. Plus, getting a life and your opponent losing a life could help you swing the battlefield in a locked state between a board lock between creatures. You can slowly start killing your opponent while making your creature big enough to actually have it come across the finish line. Next, we have for red, the Gilla Corser. Red and 2 for a 4/2. Whenever it attacks while saddled, you can exile top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. Yes, it saddles for 1, which is amazing. Yes, it's only a 4/2. It'll probably die when it swings. But the ability to peel a card off top of your deck and get to play it next turn is insanely good for what you're getting out of it. I mean, you're going to something's going to block it, probably kill it. It's probably going to kill it too, so 1 for 1. But you get a card back rebate from the cards you peel off the top. And if you manage to get in and it doesn't get killed because you got a combat trick, even better. Or if you peel a combat trick off the top, now your opponent can't block it because they know it's pointless, which means you're going to get to peel another one off the top next time, which means your combat tricks are going to get played after they don't block to give this more damage or whatever it does, and it's just going to be insane. And if it's a combat trick that deals damage to somebody swinging in or a tapped creature, it's good till next turn, so that means they have to watch what they do or they could get their own stuff plopped. Plopped? Plugged. Shot. Killed. Anyway, moving on. So next in red, we have Scorching Shot. Why wouldn't it be on here? 2 red, uncommon, sorcery, deals 5 damage to a creature. Probably the best removal, cheapest removal in the set, by far. So yeah, if you're playing red, you're playing this. And with that, guys, that's a brief summary of things you should look out for when you're playing limited in Thunder Junction on pre-release. So thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate your time. Till next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table, partner.